Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how to do secure Microsoft Azure deployments from GitHub Actions with using OpenID Connect or OIDC. As you see in this PPT depicts my demo. Here, the aim is to help you to how you can configure and use the OpenID Connect based GitHub Action authentication for any kind of deployments that can happen on Microsoft Azure, which is very secure and safe to use at GitHub Actions. Okay, so here let's see how we can use OIDC Connect to federate the authentication and authorization at Azure, and then eventually do a secure and credential-less GitHub Actions deployments. Okay, so in this video, I'm gonna explain this demo into two parts. In the first part, I'm gonna walk you through how does OpenID Connect works in exchanging the token and finally establishing the connection to the Azure. And then henceforth, the how does the GitHub Actions deploys some certain task, or how does it deploys the application, or actually how does it communicates with the Microsoft Azure. That is the something I'm going to show you here. So now let's see how does it works. Now let me take you to the next slides where I can explain the how does the token exchange happens with using OpenID Connect. As you see in this PPT here, it contains four boxes. Okay, in the first boxes, it represents actually the registering the GitHub as a OpenID Connect. Okay, so here you will create an SPN. To that SPN, we will configure a federated identity configurations with using OpenID Connect. And then then this is the first step. Actually, in the second step, if you go to the if you follow the numbers here, then the second step, we will also configure that SPN with using the SPN client ID, subscription and tenant ID. We configure the GitHub action so that it actually requests requests a signed JWT token from the from the OpenID Connect actually. Okay, so that's where the step number 2 is, where where the GitHub Actions itself use these credentials, and it will request a signed JWT token from the OpenID Connect. That's the second step. Okay, so in return, JWT token ID, which is identity provider for the GitHub, will return a secure signed token back to the GitHub Actions. Okay, so now when the GitHub Actions receives the signed token, the GitHub Action sends the JWT signed token, plus you see it uses the Azure client ID, which is the SPN client ID, which we create in the step number 1, plus Azure tenant ID, the tenant where this SPN is belongs to, and the subscription in which you need to have the access, right? So these are the actually the fourth step. Okay, basically it uses the collection of these one, and then finally sends these to the Microsoft Azure, where validates the JWT token, verifies the token is allowed to actually it verifies the JWT token, verifies which access is been allowed to assume basically, and also in turn it also sends a short-lived access token to exchange in terms of the exchange. Okay, so basically this is how the OpenID Connect is used to to exchange the token and finally authorize to do the certain certain operations in the Microsoft Azure. Okay, all right, so basically this was the flow. Now let me take you to the Microsoft Azure. So this is my Microsoft Azure subscription or Microsoft tenant basically. Currently I'm in default directory. I'm currently in my if I go to the in this my subscription, and this is my actually the Microsoft Azure subscription, I'm going to Azure Active Directory, which is my default directory. In this one, I'm going to the option called app registry, as you see in this one. So this is app registration, right? So here I'm going to create, or I'm going to register a new app here. For example, say let me give it the name equal to my channel name itself, that is cloudquicklabs. So basically I'm doing nothing here. I'm just creating a SPN. Okay, so generally it is called as app registration in Active Directory, or you can call it as a SPN. So I'm creating an SPN now, and with all other options I'm going to keep it very default and just click on register, right? So once you click on register, basically the app will be created, or SPN will be created. You can see that SPN that will be listed here. You see owned application, which is basically an SPN. Yeah, so once you click on this SPN, so this is where you will get the application ID, that is your SPN ID. Basically, you can copy it in a Notepad++, which you can use it later. Okay, I'm gonna show you like what is the implications of this one. This is the Azure client ID basically. Yeah, so I'm taking this note down, and I will gonna explain these in the later case, like how does this can be used and what are their implications, as I explained in the workflow, that is in the token exchange workflow as well. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect these data of my SPN, that is a tenant ID as well, and along with my subscription. I have one other subscription, I'm going to show you that was one. So this is the another tab of my Azure subscription only. Don't get confused. So this is the my Azure subscription with the name cloudquicklabs, and it has a subscription ID, which is I'm copying it right now. And that, okay, so basically I'm just go back to the the subscription ID. This is my subscription ID. I'm copying that. Right, so basically this is the subscription ID. Yeah, so and then let me map it to this variable. So these variables, we're going to set it as a secret in the GitHub Actions that I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes. Right, so basically we retrieved these information. Okay, now let's go to the next step that we need to do in the SPN. Okay, so I will go back one more step back again. So here we created an SPN. So I have went into this one, then I collected the application ID and the tenant ID from this one. Yeah, then you go to the certificate and secrets basically. So this is the place where actually you need to configure the federated credentials. Okay, so here there is an option called federated credentials. You need to click on that and click on the add credentials. So in this federated credential scenarios, here we are to use the federated credentials for GitHub Actions for Azure resources, and that's what I'm going to select now. That is GitHub Actions deploying Azure resources. Configure the GitHub workflow to get the token as the application and deploy the Azure. Basically, interact with the Microsoft subscription basically. Yeah. So this is the federated credential scenario I'm selecting here. So issuer will be by default token actions and GitHub user content.com. And then here are the certain parameters that you need to pass in. That is your organization name, repository name, and entity. Right. So for this case, I have already created a repository basically. I have created a dedicated repository for this one, and I will keep my GitHub Action definitions here, like how you can consume the OpenID Connect for the Microsoft Azure secure deployments, right? So this is the workflow I have can be created. I'm going to explain this in a later case. So for now, to fill these data, to fill these these parameters, that is organizations, repositories, I came back here. So basically, your organization you can see in this URL. So in this URL, after github.com, whatever it comes, it will become your org. So here is my org, or my, you can call it as an account, right? So I'm going to keep that value as my org, and then comes the repository. After the org, there is a /, and that will become the repository. You need to copy that and paste it here as it is. And then in the entity, you can select what entity you need to authorize it. Okay, so for now I'm going to authorize it to the branch. Yeah, and which branch? Okay, you can authorize to a particular branch, or you can do the other options as well. For now, since this is a pure demo, so that's the reason I'm just keeping it to main branch. Maybe the use case can change from pull request tags and the environment as well. Yeah, for now it is branch. I'm just keeping it as a branch. Then I will go to the next one. So since you are configuring the federated credentials, or federated configurations are been done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a proper name for this federated credentials, and let me give it the name as cloud cloud quick labs, which is my channel name basically. So I'm going to give it as a cloud quick labs. Yeah, so and then in this one, so in this one you can keep it audience equal to default, that is API Azure AD token exchange. So let the audience will be remain same. Description is optional, so I'm just call it as a a demo OIDC connections. So this is the this is the name that I'm going to, this is the description that I'm going to give here. All right, and the rest all configurations I'm done with it. All right, I'm going to click on add. Yeah, so basically what does this means? We have leveraged this SPN and also added a federated credential this one. In the sense, we have we have enabled this SPN so that it can it can interact with the if you use that, it can interact with the OpenID Connect for the GitHub, and then then it can get the JW2 token, and henceforth it can also get the the access token and get the required access on your subscription basically. Yeah, so this is what the configurations from the Microsoft Azure side. Now we need to go to the next step. So basically, since the SPN is created, this SPN does not have access on any subscription. So the next step is, we will give some permissions to that, to that particular SPN. Here in my tenant, I have only one subscription. Yeah. So I'm going to that subscription and I go to the, access control, that is IAM pane. In this one, I'm gonna go to the role assignments, click on add role assignments. Right. So you will figure it out your SPN here. I'm going to give it as a full owner access. Click on next. The member will be SPN here. So you can select here, click on the select button and you will get, you can search for the name like cloudquicklabs. Right. So this is the SPN being listed here. So I'm going to select that SPN, select it. So basically you are authorizing the SPN as owner of the application or owner of my account basically. Right. Click on next. And then it comes to the summary page and review and assign. Yeah. So basically this is the second step. Basically what I'm doing is, once I created a SPN, I elevated that SPNs to act as a federated SPN, which is federated to the, GitHub OpenID connect. Yeah. And then that is used, then that SPN is being given an access on the subscription, which we actually use it at a GitHub Actions for deployment purpose. Okay. Basically, the permissions can be assigned at the subscription level, resource group level, or resource level, right? So basically we are giving at the top container, at the second top container. Basically this is the top container will be management group. Yeah. So we have given access on the subscription where we are actually doing some deployment with using GitHub Actions. Okay. So this is done. Now I will take you back to my GitHub. So this is my GitHub, which I was explaining while configuring. So in this repository, in this GitHub account, I created a repository called Azure GitHub Actions OIDC Connect. Basically, I'm going to share this file. I'm going to share the link of this GitHub Actions repository meant for Azure. This can be reused, in the sense the file can be reused from your side as well. Yeah, for as simple as that. Yeah. So in this one, I have created nothing. Okay, so I just created only a GitHub Action workflow file, and that has been kept under GitHub/workflow folder. If I go here, you see there is an YAML file has been created called Azure GitHub Actions.oidc. Click on this one. So basically this is where actually we use the configurations. Okay. So here I'm going to walk you through this one. Then I'm going to configure the further required configurations. Here we have given the name, saying some example name, say Azure, run Azure login with OIDC. Then this workflow will get invoked by on push to this particular branch or particular repository. And we have added ID token permissions. This is very mandatory permissions that you need to keep in. That is ID token equal to write and contents equal to write. Yeah, content equal to read. In that one, we have only very simple job here because this is a demo. That's the reason I have kept the job equal to very simple. So here build and deploy. Just I am giving the name of the job equal to build and deploy. It actually runs on the Microsoft hosted agent, that is basically PaaS agent, that is Ubuntu latest. And this one steps are something like this. One is, this is very important step name, that is AZCLL login. Okay, so we are using a GitHub Action endpoint, that is Azure login. If you use Azure /login @version1, which is nothing but you are telling GitHub Action to log in with using AZCLL latest version. Yeah. And to log into that one, you need to feed certain data, right? So for example, the client ID, tenant ID, then the subscription ID. These are the credentials that we have copied in the notepad. I need to set it that. So basically, when you give these credentials, the AZ login uses these client ID, tenant ID, and subscription ID. First, it will use the client ID and tenant ID, try to find the SPN. In this SPN, it will just first try to see if there is a federated credentials. It finds that there is a federated credentials for the GitHub Actions, and it will also find these are the GitHub repository. Okay, henceforth the OpenID tokens gets exchanged here, and then you will be authorized to access this subscription because this client has an owner access on this one, right? And that's the reason you will get access on the subscription. Once you are authorized, in the sense you are successfully logged into that subscription and you have set the context of the subscription, and then you're going to run the command called some, this is, since you have got a permission, so you need to realize that you have got the permission, right? And this is the command that actually tells you, that is run AZ command. I'm just running some command, that is show account and the show group list. Basically, get subscription and get Azure, Azure resource group. Basically, this is what the AZCLI command does. Yeah, this is very simple. Now this is what my YAML file looks like since this is a demo. And there's a one more piece of work is remaining before I show the actual working of this YAML file. That is, I need to go to the GitHub Actions. So I will go to the GitHub Actions and go to the secrets. In the actions, select the actions. There I have already configured the Azure client subscription ID, tenant ID. I need to update it because the previous values are invalid. Okay, so I'm just going to get the client ID now. This is my client ID. I'm going to copy this and paste the value. So basically the secret will be updated in the GitHub Actions basically. So we have updated the client. Now I'm going to update the subscription ID as well. So this is my subscription ID. I'm going to copy this subscription ID. And then you have then I need to update the tenant ID as well, because in Azure, subscription ID, tenant ID, makes very much difference, because those are the IDs actually. It identifies the those subscription and the tenant uniquely, right? All right, so I'm going to copy this and paste it across in the tenant ID and update the secret. Yeah, so basically we are done with the setting the secret as well. Now time has come to test our OpenID Connect, right? So basically we are now, so here as you see, I know as you have followed the video, here I have never used client secret, right? So basically I just using the client ID. There is no secret here. Even I have not generated any secret in the while creating the SPN as well, or app registration as well, right? So that is what called as a secure Microsoft Azure deployment with using GitHub Actions, with using the OpenID Connect for GitHub Actions. Yeah. All right. So here this is a purely credential-less deployment. Yeah. All right. Now we can test it. So to test it, I need to make some commit actually. So I can modify this readmd.md file, which is actually a commit. So I will go here. I will click on the edit and I will write a sentence saying like we are demoing. Yeah, we demo the OIDC Connect for Microsoft Azure. Yeah, so I'm just commenting something like a very dummy message here, which can actually trigger the GitHub Actions. That's the aim here. So I wrote Microsoft Azure, then I'm gonna go down and commit the changes. Okay, so once I commit it, basically I did a push, which will eventually invoke my GitHub Actions. Here you go, right? So updated readme.md file, so it has started to run. I'm gonna go to this particular workflow and see how does it works now. Basically, this is purely live demo, right? So I'm not intervening anything. Let's see if this can authorize to our subscription and do the required job. That is, just log into the Azure subscription and list the account and list the resource groups present in the subscription. Okay, that is the aim here. Currently it is setting up. Looks like setting is done. AG login is currently been done. So basically it looks like it has already passed, and run the command is also been passed successfully. And here you go, it has successfully passed. Okay, so basically if I go to the AGCL login, it has logged into the Azure subscription, right, with using this client ID, subscription ID, and then the token being retrieved from the exchange, right? And then if I go to the you see there's a message called login is successful, federated token. So these are the federated token being given here, right? And then I go down. So basically we are running a command called AG account show, which has shown the account present in my account. That is, this is the account. Yeah. And then we have also run a command called show the the resource group, and the resource group list has been shown here. If I can go back to the subscription, this is my subscription. Yeah. And the resource group present in the subscription also I can show you that it has only one resource group, and that has been retrieved here, right? And all right, so basically this is how we use OpenID Connect for Microsoft Azure deployment with using secure credential-less deployment. Yeah. All right, so that's all for now. I have shown you the things to be shown in this video. Finally, a kind request, please do subscribe my channel. That would really encourage me a lot. So with that note, thank you, thanks a lot, and see you in the next video.